Hi, everyone. This is America Francis. I'm here facilitating strategic manifestations, and this is Michelle. And we're going to talk a little bit today about resistance and contrast. And tell me a little bit about your manifestation paradigm. Michelle, how do you think about manifestation?
I think the clearer you are, the faster it can manifest. But I know that it takes work. Like you can't just say, this is what I want, and then do nothing. But the clearer you are on what you want, the easier it is for it to manifest.
What types of things are you manifesting right now, or are you working on?
So one thing I'm working on is having a stronger body. And as I am doing that, different ideas will come, different videos will come, like exercise things that I have been able to try and I've been able to see results quickly, which is what I'm wanting, but also feeling stronger, which is really good.
Do you have any that you recommend?
um, I don't remember her name, but so with having 5 babies, the whole rectus diastis, is that how you say it? Anyway, any exercises that deal specifically with healing that have been really great because it actually helps heal the core and strengthen the core rather than like the typical crunches and things, which can actually make it worse.
Oh, I didn't know that. But you found some relief from your symptoms.
Yes. Yep.
That's awesome. So I was reading a book this week called Getting into the Vortex. And I really like some of the material from Esther and Jerry Hicks. It talks about how when we see a problem or a question, it helps us better define what the solution and the answer are. So you having that problem also gave you some kind of clue that there was a solution to the problem and that you could find it. And the clearer you are about the problem, I mean, it is important not to stay in the problem, right? You also have to look for the solution. But I really like it in the context of people because I'm dealing with some people situations right now. And the way the book explains it, everything's positive, whether you look at it as pleasant or unpleasant. So I thought I would read a quick section of it just to share that. So it says, we encourage you to make peace with everyone who opposes you and with everyone whom you oppose, not only because you cannot insist on their yielding to your perspective, but because their opposing perspective is of tremendous benefit to you. And I think it's really helpful for us to see that we don't have to push against things. We don't have to be upset about those things that are contrasting. There's this whole concept about resistance. So if you can accept that you're benefiting no matter what, because either it's a positive interaction that you appreciate, or you can appreciate that you're becoming clear about what you want. And when you align with those things that you want that have been made clear by this situation of contrast, then you're more likely to get it. What are your thoughts about contrast?
I think it's like you say, it can be a beautiful thing when you think of a picture and there's colors that if it adds contrast, it adds more depth and like sometimes a better picture. But even thinking of the resistance, as you're exercising and you have like your resistance band or something that you're added, you actually get stronger faster. And so I'm going to work on thinking about that with people as well and varying personalities, that the resistance can be beneficial rather than not.
So the metaphor they gave is of a buffet. Like if everything is the same and is just the things that you like, your palette is really it's limited and you don't have as much option to create and to grow and to find interesting new connections. It's really important that you have a lot of variety, and you don't have to reject things that you don't like or that you don't appreciate. You can just appreciate that there's so much variety. Everyone likes different things. Everyone has different thoughts, and the rich variety gives access to so much more creative potential than if you just said no, 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 no to all these things and eliminated them. Then you wouldn't have as much option in the future for things that you haven't even discovered that you're interested in, right? It's like colors, right? If you're like, I like purple or I like orange, and you just cut out all the rest of it, then you can't make that beautiful picture. Hello.
Hi, I'm
For
Kim.
joining us. We are talking about contrast and resistance. So contrast is things that you don't really like, but when you get a really good idea of what the problem is or the question is, then that helps you get a really good idea about what the solution is and what the answer is. And the nice thing about this manifestation principle is that if there is a problem, there is also a solution. So you can have faith that any problem you see can be solved, will be solved if you can align with that. It's a very, it's a paradigm that includes the assumption of well-being. Like everything in our environment is working for our good, and we can find the ways to those solutions. I don't really know your background on manifestation. Do you have thoughts about manifestation you'd like to share?
I put things out and then I work hard to allow whatever comes to allow it to come. So I was
Sounds
just
like
in
you
a
get it if you're talking about allowing.
Well, and we can't put parameters on it. We have to let it unfold how it will. And generally speaking, it unfolds a lot better than we can even imagine. So it's better to set the intention and then let it go.
What a perfect segue to what I'm talking about next. So I have this really good example in a different book by the same authors. It's called The Astonishing Power of Emotions. And it has this example of putting your canoe in a raging river. And the river is just it's kind of like power and desire and things like you have this life energy that's symbolized by this river, and you put your canoe in it. And some people try so hard to make things happen, and that turns your canoe upstream. So this raging river is coming down, and you are paddling so hard to get up the river. But what people don't understand is that everything they want is at the bottom of the river. So they just have to put their oars down and ride it and get to the good things and stop struggling so much, because we don't have to fight the river. The river is taking us to all the things we ever wanted. So they recommend that you just pay attention to whether you're trying to paddle upstream or whether you're allowing and going downstream. And they recommend that you pay attention to your feelings. So if you're feeling relaxed, if you're feeling like, I don't have to be the boss of this, right? Like everything is working out, even though sometimes it doesn't look like things are working out. You really sometimes have to pay attention to your thoughts, distract yourself a little bit. Something I was reading this morning was they encourage you to just pay attention to your breath for 15 minutes, which I know meditation has been a big thing, and I'm not a huge fan of sitting still and listening to my breath or paying attention to my breath, but I do believe that it would be useful to do it. And so I'm trying to find some ways to do that. The point of listening to your breath, though, or paying attention to your breath, is that you're not thinking about other things. You're not worrying about other things. You're not fighting other things. And removing the resistance just for 15 minutes can make a huge difference. So people have putting into place a practice of, you do not have to start with 15 minutes. If you start with 3 minutes, if you start with 30 seconds of just
America,
paying attention to anything. They said you can watch water drip, you can watch like anything that will help you focus on something and stop that whole train of thought that is taking you somewhere else. It's mindfulness too, right?
yeah. So America, there's actually a map called mindfulness that my husband uses when he's working with cadets, and it can walk you through a meditation, and you can set a timer for like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, however long, and it's a free app, so that can help you start. A technique I learned last 2 weeks ago is called cognitive diffusion, where basically you imagine you're sitting at the river, and it doesn't have to be raging. The speed can be whatever you want it to be, but the leaves come down the river, and you take whatever thought is in your head at the minute and you put it on that leaf, and then you let the leaf go. So you have the thoughts. You're not trying to silence your thoughts or whatever. You're just, okay, this is the thought. I'm going to let it come and I'm going to let it go. And you just do that for even 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and you're not holding on to anything. And I am not one who loves to sit still and not do anything either, and to sit in my thoughts. Like, sometimes, some things come out that you have to face that you don't really want to. It's easier to just stay busy and ignore everything. But as I have tried doing that more and more, I have found more peace and more clarity actually with the thoughts. And so along with your, jumping in the river or whatever and enjoying what's downstream, some of that is hard because some of those are pretty chaotic. And so it's like, okay, as you learn to figure it out and sort it, okay, why am I feeling this way? What is this thought? Because some of the things that we're thinking aren't necessarily true, but it's what we have trained ourselves to believe. So then as you can question some of those, you can become stronger.
Thank you. So I have a couple more thoughts on that same topic. One of them is that it doesn't matter where you are. So sometimes people want to spend a lot of time going back and trying to fix things that happened before, or they worry about things that happened in the past, about how maybe that has set them up for a more challenging future. But this is just a really encouraging idea that you can just put your boat in and it will take you to good things no matter what's happened previously. You don't have to stay and work out all of the things that didn't happen the way you wanted them to before. Another idea is the things that we focus on are what we get. So they encourage you not to focus on things that are bothering you. So don't find all the things that you don't like about a situation. And let's say you have a health problem. You don't tell everyone about your health problem. You don't tell everybody about your financial problem. You don't tell everybody about your relationship problem. You focus on anything good you can find. Or if it's really hard for you to find positive things, then you try to do the meditation thing where you're not thinking about anything, because at least you're not thinking about something negative. So how do you tell the difference between an upstream and a downstream thought?
America, before you go there, is it okay if I jump in with a thought that a lot of times we try to figure out everything that's happened and why, and we spend a lot of time on it. So sometimes what may work is to just say, you know what, all of that, whatever it is, resolved, unresolved, whatever it is, has brought me to this point. And now I'm going from here and moving forward. So we honor all that has happened, but we're not going to dwell on good, bad, ugly, whatever. We're going to look at where we're at now and then start moving forward, start our paddle downstream.
Well, I think it's really helpful to have that sense of hope. Like there's nothing in my past that locks me into a scenario that I don't like. Like wherever I am, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter if someone's declared bankruptcy. It doesn't matter if someone has a cancer diagnosis. Whatever that thing is, doesn't keep you from your powerful now, where you can focus on everything good. And basically, the law of attraction, the way I understand it, is if you're appreciating anything about your life, it benefits all of your life. So even if this area over here is a hot mess, if you have some little beautiful garden plot over here and you can focus all your thoughts on how much you love this other spot, those feelings of love and appreciation will benefit every piece of your life.
Mm-hmm. And along with that, I mean, even the not so pleasant stuff, you can look at it as opportunity for learning. Mm-hmm. and to recognize that whatever it is, trial, challenge, however you want to label it, but it's an opportunity to learn something new and to build your skill set, or to be able to push through something that's hard.
Mm-hmm. Those are really useful things to learn. I think part of the manifestation philosophy is that if you just keep focusing on whatever it is you don't like, it won't go away. Like, you're attracting all of the things you think about. Mm-hmm. So if you keep on just focusing on this thing you don't like, it's going to stick around for maybe a really long time. That health problem you don't like is not going anywhere until you change that vibration. You have to be willing to think different thoughts and feel those different feelings. And then when it can be hard to intentionally get the vibration you're looking for, but there's one helpful concept here that is, there are two parts to everything. There's a thing that is wanted and a thing that is unwanted. And if you're focusing on not having money, then you're going to keep on not having money. And you have to focus on the different thing that is abundance and wealth and financial prosperity. And if you can focus on that, so some people don't even know what they're focusing on. But if they're experiencing the lack, then they know they're vibrating the lack. But if they're experiencing the abundance, so we can even see, right? If you look at different examples in your life and you see this person is swimming in opportunities and financial prosperity and good relationships and whatever, they're doing something right and it's manifesting. And I'm not trying to say that people who are having hard times are doing something bad or wrong or anything like that. But I do believe that there is some connection between what you're intending, what you're focusing on, and some of the results that show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, let's talk for a second about focusing then. What are some ways that you have used to better kind of focus on those important things in your life? Keep them front and center, keep them in your thoughts.
Well, my number one go-to is to list them, to write it all out and have it where I can see it. I keep it close to my journal, so it's something that I look at most days, if you will, what my desires are. At the back of my journal, I have my wellness vision, or my life vision, whatever you want to call it. So anytime I open my journal, I can just quickly go to it. So really for me, it's visual and being able to look at it. And then when I find myself moving in that negative direction, then I stop and ask myself, because all emotion is a value. So if we got positive emotion going, then needs are being met. If we have negative emotion, then we have an unmet need. And so I'll ask myself, what's really behind this emotion? What's the unmet need? And then find a way to start meeting it, to put me back in that positive frame of mind or positive emotion.
So the response that's recommended in this whole Abraham Hicks philosophy is to find a feeling of relief. So if you're in a really bad place, you can't necessarily switch immediately to a better feeling place, but you can find a little bit of relief. So it says that there's like a certain number of emotions that they propose, and you have really high happy emotions, joy, freedom, excitement, and then you have really, really low emotions. And then along the way, you have all these different steps. And if you're at the very bottom, you don't have access to the thoughts of the higher level things, but you do have access to something that will make you feel just a little bit better. So if you can identify a thought, your next goal is to find a feeling of relief. So if you're stressed out about a parenting situation or a child situation, and you can give yourself a little bit of hope, this is a hard event, but it's, time limited. Oh yeah, time limited. So just looking for relief in your thoughts, right? Putting some thought that makes you feel a little bit better. And there's some really good exercises in those books about how to find that feeling of relief. But another tool that's been really helpful for me, I've had kind of a hard year. A lot of things have been going on. And it helps me to know that your emotions are very brief. So even if you feel deep sadness or grief or pain or whatever, usually it will dissipate in a short few minutes, and you'll have blue days or down days or hours or whatever, but the most intense feelings are generally pretty limited, and you can kind of get through those and then find that relief of your emotions getting a little less intense.
Absolutely.
I love
and it goes back to the whole, how much time are you focusing on those emotions and dwelling on them, if you will, as opposed to recognizing what it is and then be like, okay, let's move on. It's time limited. Everything always is changing. Nothing stays the same. Whatever language you got to use to help move you through that.
Well, and I think another really useful thing is to look at what you can control. Because if you're blaming someone else and you don't like their behavior, that's not something that you can control. All you can control is whether or not you're bothered about it or what you're doing to help yourself. So if you can focus on, instead of worrying about somebody else, that's their job and their responsibility, what is my responsibility in this situation and how can I help myself get my needs met or whatever.
Yep.
So I would love to know more about your vision board as far as what's abundance that you would like to see in your life.
Excuse me. On my vision board, there is, I got, like I said, I got kind of two separate things going, but on my vision board, I have personal dreams, goals, and then I have my spouse and I have goals for the two of us, and then I have goals for my kids. One of the things on there is to be able to put our 4 children through college without any student debt. And we are 2 out of the 4. And so
yay!
We're excited about that. Just a little about me. I have 2 kids, and then there's 10 years between the second and the third one. So, and my third one's 14. So we have a little bit of time before she's off to college.
I just paid my first tuition payment for my daughter, so that hurts a little bit.
Yeah. But you know what? As you say that, I think back to when I had 2 girls in college, and both of them, we were on the payment plan. And I just remember like, wow, we are putting this much money every month into tuition. But then as I got to the end of the semester, I was like, wow, we put that much money into tuition and we had that much money to put into tuition. And so it's kind of out of the gate, you're kind of like, whoa, that's a lot. But then at the end, you're like, I paid it. It got done. So,
Well,
that's a
and
cool
money is
thing.
something that hangs up a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
they think of it as being scarce, if they think of it as being, if I have it, someone else can't have it, or if they have it, I can't have it, it can be a really big issue for people.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was so that's one of them on there. Another one is my goal in regards to my employment, how much money I want to be able to make in a year, and be able to leave my full-time job and have my other businesses or other things that I'm doing be able to sustain my life, so I don't have to have that full-time job. That's another piece that's on there.
Are you
I have a
looking for
picture.
remote work and flexible work? Is that what you're looking for?
Well, actually, I'm a wellness coach, and so I'm trying to build up my wellness practice. And I've just added another piece to it in functional medicine or functional wellness. So I'm adding another piece to it and exploring that a little bit more to try to drive an online business. So
Is that different from what you're doing at your current job?
Well, at my current job, I'm a wellness coach, but I work for somebody. And so, and most of it's remote. I work from home, but probably the biggest rub there is I am salaried and I'm paid full-time work, but I really don't do full-time work or what traditionally has been thought of as full-time work. So it kind of goes against my value of getting paid for something I'm not actually doing. So it's been a little bit of a struggle. But as my daughters, my younger two, get a little bit older, I need to be home with them in the evenings. And so, so that's kind of where that's going. And then I have a picture of a Tahoe that I want. And so I have that in the back, but I have a lot of Post-it notes, and then I have that picture. So
pictures really useful.
Yeah. Yep, they are. So what was on there a couple of years ago, and with the Post-it notes, and I just pull it off when I'm done, and I put it in my journal and I write about it. In our family, we celebrate our 50th birthdays with a huge trip. And in 2020, I turned 50, and I had always dreamed of going to OBX, North Carolina. I always
North Carolina.
The Outer Banks. It's like as far as you can go east, and there's just like a strip of land that runs almost the coast of all of the coast of North Carolina. And I've always wanted to go there. If you've ever watched or read a Nicholas Sparks book or watched one of his movies, Notebook, Message in a Bottle, all of those are North Carolina based. And so I've always wanted to go there. And so I put that on my vision board that I wanted to go to the Outer Banks. And I can remember when we landed in North Carolina, when I landed, I thought, I can't believe I actually achieved this. I have arrived, we're on our way. And what an awesome feeling. And also on there, my husband turns 50 next year, and he decided he wanted to go as a family, and there's a large group of us going to Disney World. And we will be on that plane next March, and it's about paid for before we even have left. So it's just amazing that when you put it there, it happens. And if you work towards it, you focus on it, make choices that move you in that direction, it happens.
Yeah, so, like a bucket list.
Yeah.
There are a couple different elements you've pointed out there. One is that you can be anticipating this event for a long time before you go, and that can bring a lot of really positive feelings into your life. And those positive feelings can actually bring additional positive experiences into your life. So that feeling helps you understand if you're on the right track, if you're going downstream or upstream. So it's just really important to pay attention to that feeling of ease and joy. And if you're feeling crummy about some situation, it's important to pay attention to that so you can figure out how to get back to that feeling of well-being that that should be the baseline, right? So so this philosophy here in the Abraham Hicks books would say that it isn't the events in your life that are causing you to feel bad, even if they're bad events. It is your alignment with who you really are. So if you are aligned with the good things that you always are fundamentally deep down, if you're aligned with that, you can be happy and positive in any circumstances. And if you're not aligned with who you really are, it doesn't matter whether your circumstances are good or bad, you're not going to be feeling that feeling of well-being.
Right. Yeah.
I also wanted to make a comment about writing, because they would say that writing is a really powerful focus of your intention and of your thoughts. So that practice of writing is really powerful.
Along with that, I just want to say that anything that we put out there, we have to believe it can happen.
Yes.
We may not understand how it's going to happen, but we have to believe it can happen. So a couple of years ago, I don't know what, I had started my website, all of this stuff, and I had written out every single day, because somebody said, write your goals down every single day so you can see it. And I would literally write every single day what my goals were. But as I would write those, I'd be like, we'll see. Maybe not, but I'm writing. And so I learned from that experience, and I did it for like 6 months, that it really comes back to what you can believe. And if you can't believe what you're putting on the paper, then maybe you need to step your desire back to something that is believable.
So affirmations, the language that was really useful, affirmations, the language that's useful is in the process of, right? Although they do say that it's important to put it as if it's already happened. So thank you for this amazing Tahoe that is coming.
Yeah.
And feel those feelings of sitting in your Tahoe and going on the trip, and whatever good feelings are associated with that car that you're getting, for sure. You think about it. But some of that language is really helpful to be like, this is happening, and I'm in the process, and it's progressing. And then you don't feel the resistance of, I don't see a lot of it yet.
Yeah.
Maybe, they can be really small changes, although results can come very quickly if you align. So, but sometimes it starts really slowly and you don't see things for a while. And then once you start to believe it, it makes you get some more traction there.
Exactly. Yeah.
I have a really long vision board. Mine's electronic, so I don't have it flip at the back of my journal. Mine's like 40 pages.
Oh, awesome.
A Google Doc. I love it. And I change it all the time because I'm getting more clear about what my preferences are. So I have a lot of different areas. I have myself, me, and then I have family, I have religious things, I have home things and travel and lots of things. And I just get all the happy pictures. And I also have affirmations and a lot of text on there too, because some things are easier to represent with pictures. But something that I really like too is to listen to music while I look at the images. So I have all these different links at the top, and I listen to happy songs. And sometimes when I'm feeling kind of down, I have some sad songs I listen to too, because I accept that part of where I'm at. But I really like that association of the images and the music.
Mhm.
I actually found a new song today that I was really excited that I manifested. It was kind of an upbeat song by, now I want to find it because I want to share it with everybody. It is called Crazy Beautiful by Andy Grammer. And I thought it was a really fun song.
Who's it by?
Andy Grammer. So sometimes when I'm listening to my playlist of songs and I'm looking at my vision board, a new song will come up. And I found another one the other day. It's called I Miss You Like Crazy that I thought was a pretty good song. So I added that too. But I'm often adding pictures and text. One of my friends on Facebook posted this really nice thing about his new wife and all the things he liked about her and how fabulous she was. And I just cut the whole thing and put it at the end because I was like, oh yes, I'd like this to match and this to match and this to match and this to match when somebody's making that kind of comment about me, at my birthday or any other time.
Yeah, that would be cool.
It's kind of like that whole begin with the end in mind thing by Stephen Covey, where he's like, you should write your obituary and then you should come back. That's a way to look at your goals is if I want to be somebody that has these accomplishments, what education do I need? What experiences, what people do I need to meet so I can get to that destination? Because you won't end up there if you don't stay on that path.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty amazing when you get some really, really big goals. Like that whole thing about believing it. Sometimes we really sell ourselves short. And we're like, well, for example, I really, what is that word? I just consider myself a stay-at-home mom, right? Like that is kind of like my core identity right now is that. And I'm having to shift into some real professional and career type areas. And so, for example, I was doing this, it's called a Tech Moms course, and I was connecting with all these people. And when I was doing that activity, I realized that a lot of the tasks that I normally put on my resume, I was just calling like admin tasks. And then when I started looking at all the keywords, I was like, well, I do this. And they all sound really fancy when I use these terms to describe them, right? And I think it's a lot of women or stay-at-home moms or people transitioning back into the workplace can reframe things accurately, right? Like you are doing these fancy things, but if you minimize them with your language, other people aren't going to recognize that you have deep experience and professional level skills. So you've got to package it.
Yeah.
And then when you look at like Oprah, right? Like if you're looking at these people and you say, wow, these people are up here and look what they've done. But there are plenty of normal people that have the things, they've manifested those things. They have the house and the car and the family and the professional accomplishment. They've written 20 books and they're just normal people too. And we can do amazing and wonderful things, especially if we focus. So Einstein has a good quote about that. He said, well, I got to be careful. It's not an exact quote, but he said, I'm not that smart. I just stay with the problem longer. That whole thing.
Who said that?
Albert Einstein. Okay. I should really find the exact quote. He sticks with the problem longer. And if you look at anyone, my fencing coach was just inducted into the Utah Sport Hall of Fame. And 30 years ago, she was just learning how to fence. And then she just focused on it a lot. It's the same with the judges and the authors and the parents and whatever. Like, You have to do something today. You have to do something tomorrow. You have to do something the next day. And then you develop habits and you interact with people. And after a certain length of time, you become that thing. You don't have to, like when you're learning to drive or use a bicycle, you have to really focus on all the different discrete steps. But once you get into that feeling of proficiency after you've gotten good at it, you've developed your skills, then it becomes automatic. Just like your wellness coach, like you've found your resources and you've found your systems. And now when someone says, I have this problem, you know what some ideas are that could really help with the problem. And that's kind of a big piece of what we're doing with Steward Growth right now too, is helping people learn how to solve problems. And there are some really effective tools for solving problems. And one of them is just communicating with another person, especially a person who has experience and ideas and a perspective that's from maybe a certain industry, or they've had a role. So it's problem solving, but we cannot focus on the problem. You have to focus on the solution. And people get stuck in that a whole lot. They're just talking about the problem. And you have to go to that other level. You can't solve the problem as another Einstein at the same level that you created the problem. So if you were talking to someone who didn't have any background in manifestation, what would be some of the key pieces that you would bring up to help them get it? Belief is one of them. So having that clear desire, this is the thing that I want, believing that you can get it. You said something about allowing. Would you like to talk about allowing for a second?
I read or listened to something and there was 3 steps to it. And one was manifest. And then the second step was to just allow it to unfold. And then I think the third step was to recognize and give appreciation or thanks. So a lot of times as individuals, because we don't like change, and most of us are control freaks. Let's all be honest. We want it our way and so forth. And so it's one thing to say, this is what I want. But when we say that, this is what I want, then we start to say like, oh, but I need that to happen on a Tuesday in the afternoon when the sun is shining and ... And in the universe, I just feel like God, higher power, whatever you want to say, is just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. That's way too strict. I can't follow all those guidelines, and some of those are unrealistic. And if I were to do that, you would not appreciate it anyway, because it would create bigger problems for you. So, and so I think that's why you have to state your intention, and then again, just let it unfold how it will.
And the timing. Don't get so caught up on the timing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the specifics of it. So I did a little test at the beginning, I want to say like April, and I was just like, I need $25,000 by September 1. I want $25,000 in my bank account. Well, September 1 has come and gone, and I've reviewed that goal. And first of all, how I said I was going to get that money didn't do it that way. And I even knew as I was writing, this is how I'm going to get the money. I was like, nope. And I had to rephrase it, change it. And still I was like, that's not the way. And so I kind of just let that part slide and focused in, this is what I'm going after. And it's going to come in various forms. Well, September 1 came and I'm like, I don't have 25 grand in my bank account. What happened? Where that was what I put out there. It's what I was aiming for. And then I went back to what I actually had written. that it'll come in various forms at different times. And then I realized from April to September, 25 grand had come, just not in a lump sum. And it came and it went as needed. So again, you got to allow it, but you also have to recognize when it does happen, and to give that appreciation and express gratitude. Because God doesn't like stingy folk, and the universe doesn't like stingy energy.
There is so much abundance. Everyone can have everything they need.
Mm-hmm.
There's
want
that.
Yeah.
I think it's important to put why you want things too. That can be really useful when you write out all of your intentions. You can say, I want 25,000 for this reason, to help my kids pay for school, or to pay for the Tahoe, or just focusing on that. This is why I want it.
Yeah. And I kind of had done that. Like I wanted 25,000. So some of it would go to this, some of it would go to this, some of it would go to this. And I didn't necessarily follow that, but it went to other good causes also.
Yeah.
So,
well, sometimes your intentions change, which is why, I'm always switching out my vision board. I keep dated copies of it. So I probably don't need all the copies that I have, but I like to see the changes over time. Like, this is where I was at that time, and this is how things have changed for me. And then another cool thing is, once you get those things that are manifested, you have a new perspective from which to want other things.
Yep.
So wherever you end up, it's not like it ever ends where you finish this project. You just become something awesome, and then other interesting and exciting possibilities open up. And what a fun life we have.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that goes back to like the leveling, if you will. Like, you have to believe that this can happen. And so maybe going, I'm going to get $5 million, that's, if you can't believe it, then come back to what you feel like is realistic, or, until you can see that it proves itself. And that brings confidence, and then it helps manifest that good energy that, oh yeah, I can see where this is happening. And so I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah, making a list of the things that you've manifested is really powerful. Because you can start with something little, and then you can start with something bigger. Like, there was that whole project where the kid traded a paperclip for something, and on Craigslist. Did you hear about that story? Traded something for something for something, and ended up with a house over so many steps. Traded things until he started with nothing, ended up with something really cool and a fun story. But if you just focus on one particular thing, and it can be an odd thing, sometimes people like to test it with something really just something they wouldn't normally find around, so that they can know that it happened through this method.
Yeah. I did that one time with finding a parking spot close to the door. And now, and I was thinking about this, like my last trip to the grocery store, and I was like, I don't even think about that anymore. It just happens. I don't even have to put that intention out there. It's just like, I've done